Man, I gotta give Portrayal of Guilt some fucking credit right off the goddamn bat for having the audacity to release an album called We Are Always Alone during a period in time in which a majority of the population is, in fact, always alone. Remember going to concerts, restaurants, parties, and having fucking human contact with people? Those were the days. This is the sophomore studio album from this experimental and extreme hardcore and metal crew out of Austin, Texas, Portrayal of Guilt. Now, they've only been kicking for about 4 years as of this date, having released their debut EP back in 2017, but those 4 years have been cram-packed with material. And yet, despite all of that, this is really the first time I can remember spending a lot of time with a full-blown Portrayal of Guilt release, and as such, I went into this pretty fucking blind, not knowing what to expect. The album artwork, alongside some of the press I had heard beforehand, kinda implied to me that this was going to be a very horrific and explosive kind of hardcore with a little bit of a blackened underbelly. Interestingly, Flight of Icarus from Metal Trenches went as far as to compare this to Lord Mantis in his official album review. So, I was expecting some pretty fucking gnarly shit. What I wasn't expecting was an overwhelming avalanche of misery and nihilism and blood-curdling brutality. It's very blunt, very stark, very abrasive, emotionally transparent. Portrayal of Guilt have absolutely nothing to fucking hide whatso-goddamn ever. The album practically marinates itself in its own fucking agony, and sonically speaking, this thing is way more diverse than I would have ever expected. It sounds like this bizarre mutant freak child of early Converge, Today Is the Day, and Full of Hell, with a very pungent black metal aftertaste, may I add. You have tracks like Attempting Pain, which almost harkens sonically to some of the most direct material from a band like Pig Destroyer, but with a much more blatant black metal edge. You have a track like Masochistic Oath, which is a lot more angular, a lot more dissonant and psychotic, contrasting some very ominous guitar work with some very violent hardcore fury and the type of industrial, nightmarish soundscape that I would expect from Full of Hell. You have a track like Garden of Despair, which sounds like a literal mental breakdown somehow translated through extreme metal. And then you've got a track like My Immolation, which, objectively speaking, I guess is one of the softer cuts on this record, in some parts at least, but it's also a little bit more creepy and uneasy thanks to these really monotonous, dreary vocals and this very sludgy, kind of grungy alt-rock underbelly. I'm pretty sure if you locked the Melvins and Today Is the Day in a fucking asylum together, this is the kind of shit they would end up writing. Hell, I'm willing to bet it would be fucking sprawled in big letters across the wall with their own fucking feces and blood. Their production of the record as well does a really great job in immersing you in this sonic hellhole, as noisy soundscapes and angsty guitars and very ominous chants often fill the sound completely. Aesthetically, I'm weirdly reminded of the kind of production we could expect to find on a Code Orange record, albeit without the very dystopian, industrial metal flavor. And the lyrics as well are just fucking incredible. Every bit as dreadful and haunting as they are genuinely quite poetic and beautiful. Take, for instance, this very blunt but powerful passage from the track, It's Already Over. Another state of being, I search for heaven in the ceiling, but all I've found is an endless sea of black. I feel myself letting go. I submit myself to what the world chose for me. Or even this startling passage from the aforementioned Masochistic Oath, reading, This burden of living never seems to end, as I lay my body and take the devil's hand in this holy water, in this chamber of sin, born into filth, I die alone. a very grim, disturbing, almost triggering mental picture being painted here. This is some genuinely fucked up stuff. If somebody I knew said any of this to me, I would legitimately tell them to go see a doctor. The only thing really preventing me from, quite frankly, falling in love with this album are the vocals. These vocals, though performed with the utmost passion and confidence, just aren't doing a damned thing for me. A lot of very nasally crying and shrieking and whelping and screaming. It honestly sounds like Gollum trying to audition for a black metal band. Throughout the entirety of the record. I imagine to some people that probably sounds pretty fucking awesome. I get it. In theory, it should be awesome, but in execution, it's just doing nothing for me. It makes it really difficult to absorb the meaning and absorb the substance of this record, and frankly, they're just really off-putting and distracting. On top of that, I can't help but think to myself, man, a moment of fucking oxygen halfway through this record would have done this a world of wonders, you know? Just a short little guitar or keyboard or piano interlude just to create a little bit of contrast, just to give you, the listener, a little bit of fucking time to breathe and relax before, you know, being fucking struck in the head with a fucking jackhammer. But I suppose that's more of a nitpick than anything else, and all things considered, you know, I would still give this a pretty enthusiastic 4 out of 5. There's some seriously fucking nasty psychotic shit on here. This album is demented. This album is unpredictable. It is visceral. It is vicious. It is uncompromising and emotionally quite transparent and bold at the same time. I think a lot of what this record has to offer, both lyrically and musically, is going to resonate with a lot of people right now, particularly those looking for something just genuinely super crazy, brutal, and disturbing to distract from the never-ending dystopian nightmare of 2021. Despite my criticisms, I actually look forward to revisiting this record in the future and getting to know it a little better and getting to understand it a little bit better. And who knows, maybe if I do that enough times, maybe I'll come to appreciate and even love the things that I don't currently appreciate and love. Why not? It's happened plenty of times before on the Metal Meltdown. Just last year, for instance, Aranci Pazuzu released Miss Taryn Kinsey, and initially I liked it a lot. I really liked it. I just wasn't big on the vocals. But then at the end of the year, that ended up being in my top 10. I thought it was one of the best albums released all year. So who knows? There's plenty of time for me to warm up to this. Still, as it stands, I think it would be pretty shitty to argue with a 4 out of 5, so I'll stick to that. It's a truly great record. Approach with caution, but please do approach. That is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.